down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
What's going on, Savvy Investors? This is your friend, Bang Bang, Steve VanCauwenbergh. You tuned in to the Savvy Podcast. The Savvy Radio Show. It's a great day because you're alive. It's a really great day that you want to learn and you want to grow and you want to go to whatever level that may be. And today's episode is on all the things that I recently just learned in real estate. Yep. A lot of you out there that I hang out with on a regular basis is on real estate investing, and my journey of failure is continuing on the saga. So today's episode, we're going to cover all the little nuances or whatever, all the little things, the failures of real estate right now in my life as of March 2022. So let's get started real fast. Number one, insurance. And I've just constantly neglected this area of investing. I don't think anyone that I've ever ran into, maybe a couple folks that actually really dig insurance, understand insurance. Maybe you're an adjuster. You probably know a lot about insurance, but most of us, I could pretty much guess it's a necessary evil, right? I mean, it's important, especially when something goes wrong. Man, insurance is off the chain. But when you have 30, 50, 100 units, maybe you have them all with Allstate, Shelter, or Farmers, and you get a mountain of paper delivery of policies because you don't buy your properties all on the same day, right? So insurance tends to be kind of a laborsome, right? It's a pain in the AA. You know what I'm saying? AA, what does that mean? I don't know. Google it up. Anyway, so even in my experience at 20-something years in insurance, and as a real estate investor, I continue to learn and grow and fail. And so I just acquired a commercial property, and I have been having some conflict with my insurance agent in a positive way. Every time, it seems like, not every time, but seems like every time I have a conversation with this insurance agent, it's a conflict of sorts. And I'm not joking. My whole focus is on commercial, and I got some commercial buildings. And every year in this last 3 years, there has been a commercial inspector coming to my properties. And in the beginning, 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago, no big deal. Hey, here's the keys, go check it out, or I'll let the tenant know. They do a walkthrough. Maybe rarely they'll look at the roof and they just move on. My understanding is that they thought that did it burn down and they're just checking a box and moving on. Well, recently on one of my properties that I've had insured for over 10 years, they're trying to tell me that I need to replace the electrical box that's in this building. Now, wait a minute. Hold on. You've been insuring it for 10 years. What? Why? What's wrong? And then they sent me this inspection of all these other things I need to do. And I'm thinking to myself, where is this going? So I called my insurance agent. He's like, hey, they're cracking down. Cracking down on what? But on the commercial side, and I'm assuming this is going to happen on the residential side, and maybe it's because of a ton of losses, but they are doing inspections and they're expecting or wanting you or doing certain things. And I was like, that just doesn't make sense. My insurance continues to rise, and now you wanting me to do more things before, and it's the same building as it was 10 years ago. We haven't really done anything but maybe spruce it up. So I'm back and forth on that situation, and it really just kind of frustrates me, and it makes me want to get new insurance. And I'm not directing this towards my broker, my insurance agent guy. He's a great guy. I love this dude. But, is he just limited to certain carriers? I don't know this game really well. And so I just started digging really deep into insurance and trying to figure it out. And so no big deal. I'm rolling down the road, and I'm having a great relationship. And my insurance agent, he has rental property, so he's an investor, and he's an entrepreneur, and he knows what's going on. So no big deal. I acquire this property, and I take pictures of the inside, and I call him and say, hey, I need insurance on this building. And he says, does it have these electrical boxes? And I'm like, what? What do you mean? He's like, yeah, your building that you're purchasing cannot have Federal Pacific, Zinco, and Stablock. I said, is that a foreign language? Federal Pacific, Zingo, and Stablock? And he's like, hey, man, they won't insure it. They won't insure it. I'm paying money. And this boils down to, I just lost $1,000. What? Exactly. This is what happened. So I was kind of frustrated. Why is that? And he could not give me an answer. Are these prone to burn down? Is there something wrong with this? Obviously, these insurance companies don't lose, and they're going to go against any claims that you have. I mean, that's just their goal, right? They want to make as much money as possible. So I was kind of frustrated. So I put the dude on pause. And I was like, okay, man, thanks. Appreciate it. So I just went out, and this is what you should do. And you should do this in your residential. You should probably go out and price check. And especially in Oklahoma, where there's storms every other year. And, it's a very unique situation here in Oklahoma. There's an insurance bond. There's a pool of money. And we can get into that on another episode, I guess. But insurance companies come and go like the wind. That's funny. It's windy here. But the reality is, you do. And when new insurance companies come, this is usually in residential and usually auto, prices are cheap and they're competitive and they want their business. And then when they have a series of claims or they want to move on to another state, they just pick up and leave. Seriously, it happens. Like 1 minute you might get a great new insurance company, and then 3 years later, they don't even exist in the state of Oklahoma. They may be in Texas, but they don't in Oklahoma. And then also this happens with Allstate Insurance. 1 minute, they want to ramp up their inventory or however insurance works. They drop their price. Looks like Allstate is doing a lot of marketing, and they woo people over to their side. Residual income, in my mind, I get it. And so it's a competitive market. And so I always thought to myself, it's a competitive market. There's got to be someone out there that's going to write this insurance. You're not going to, VanCauwenbergh talking here, you're not going to limit me to me insuring this building. I'm willing to pay, la-da-da-da-da-da-da. So I went ahead, and I didn't want to do this, but I got to grow, and I went and contacted as many insurance agents as I could get a hold of, which was ultimately difficult. That hiring a contractor, hiring a service-based business. I called several insurance agents, emailed, and I used to like this insurance company called Chubb Insurance. And so I Googled up Chubb, found a local broker, called State Farm. And one thing that I figured out real fast and real dirty was that they have a system, all these insurance agents communicate. I think it's unfair, and I think it's a monopoly, because when I requested insurance from a different company, a different independent agent, he knew that I was working with another agent who pulled insurance requests on the same carrier that he sells. Interesting. I don't think that's a fair market, but that's just me. But it actually stopped me in my tracks, because I was trying to find a different insurance carrier that was going to write this insurance. I wanted to be up front, and this other insurance agent asked me the same question. Does your building have Stablock? Does your building have Zinco? Does your building have Federal Pacific? And at first, I didn't want to say anything, but I did. I said, yes, it does. And then, Mr. VanCauwenbergh, we can't insure you. And I'm like, I am closing in 3 days. And, there is other insurance companies. Let me give you some perspective. So this is a $500,000 building. I'm getting insured for that amount, $400,000, a little bit less. And the insurance came in about $5,000 for insurance, which in some markets, I've been talking to some people around the country, and it's like, that's high. And I'm like, that's pretty typical in Oklahoma, roughly about 1%. Again, this is a competitive market. I thought we would have this pricing on lockdown. And I thought to myself, this is impossible. How in the world can we're limited. And I'm like, there's got to be someone on this planet that can write insurance on this building. And this is extremely frustrating. And so I just want to do this podcast so you would know not to be me and not to get hung up like this. Now, there's got to be a better way. You might maybe go through a different carrier. I'm going through an independent person. I'm trying to be a better investor, trying to get the best price. But I was caught in the middle of ignorance, and it cost me $1,000. So you can call that a failure. You can call that whatever you want to call, learning lesson. And I have a really good agent, and he was sensitive to me, and I was upfront with him. I was like, man, listen, I don't want to be relying on one person. You're a wonderful agent, but there's got to be another way. I just assumed that he was an independent agent. He only carried certain brokers. Now, the interesting thing, the other second agent, he said, I can't help you. We don't insure those. Again, let me tell you one more time. Federal Pacific, Zenco, and Stablock. Look at your boxes in your residential or commercial property and be prepared to figure it out. That second agent was like, yeah, we can write it, but it's going to be like double. What? $10,000. That's from some random insurer. So I called my insurance agent back. I was like, here's the plan. I'll swap out the box. I really don't know what it's going to cost me, but I really don't want to do it because I have a new tenant coming in and I don't know what they're going to need, or if I'm going to move that power box somewhere that's more convenient for them. I know I'm going to do a build to suit, or they're going to remodel, and we're going to figure it out. I don't want to just be doing this. And so he found me another carrier, but your premium is $6,000. Wow. So I'm trying to think, what did I learn here? One, I definitely think you should do price check. Two, I learned me fooling around, cost me $1,000. Now, he said you can get some of that money back if you get rid of the stab lock and, cancel that other insurance and flip over to the other insurance, but you have to pay a 3-month premium. This is interesting. So I don't know if this helps you in any way or fashion or form. I've dealt with insurance for a long time with a lot of our properties. I've never had an insurance company kind of tell me what to do. And I felt like I've never had an insurance company put me in a box where I can't move. And I don't know if it's just Oklahoma. If you have any issues or any questions, man, let your boy know. Go to SavvyInvestors.com. I would love to know. I'm growing out here, and I'm just hopefully that you've heard that be careful of the units that you have that have these boxes. Be prepared that you may have to remove them, or you may not get the proper insurance that you need. And this when you get leveraged a loan, you're going to have proper insurance. All right, that's where we're at today. Continuing on in the world of real estate, mistakes, learning, failures, whatever. Here's another one. So you may be savvy and create a special LLC for your new acquisition, especially in commercial endeavors. And I think you should do this in your residential as well. Create an LLC. One, I'm not an attorney, but number one is you want to have some liability, a disassociation from you personally. And two, it makes ambulance chasers not as easy to find you. It's not difficult to find you, but, you don't want to commingle a giant, $500,000 building with a $30,000 rent house. When a $30,000 rent house, someone falls over, sues you, and then they attach that, say, case or judgment on you, and it can just slide over to one of your other assets. So in the future, you would should put your LLCs in, some people do it in blocks of 10. Some people do it per asset. Yes, it takes a little bit more paperwork. Yes, you got to get another LLC, but you necessarily don't have to get another bank account. So this is something that I just recently learned that I would recommend for you to figure out. Well, I figured it out, but I'm here to help you. So for example, I acquired an asset under my company name, blank. Let's just call it Company One LLC. And I do a lot of business under Company One LLC and my EIN number, and we're doing great. The bank's like, yep, we're going to loan you the money, and you're going to receive proceeds off of that deal. So let's just, kicks and giggles. I buy $100,000 building or whatever, making at a $0 million building, whatever, for $70,000. They are going to be willing to give me $10,000 at closing. You feel me? We're up to 80%. But I created a new LLC, and at closing, they're going to put the proceeds, because the title company is going to title it in that new LLC. Got it? And then they're going to title it. That's what I want them to do in that new LLC. Let's say Company 2 Protection. Let's call it Company 2. And they're going to cut a check to Company 2 Protection. But you got a $10,000 check, maybe a $100,000 check, and you cannot cash it because you do not have a business account created in Company 2 Protection LLC. So what do? This is a humdinger. This happened to me accidentally on a refinance I had just recently, and I did it with a credit union, and I had to open an account with a credit union. So this is a requirement for that bank. Maybe that's something that you need to learn. Some bank accounts require you to open a bank account. Some great bankers require you to kind of do business with them. Maybe your operational account. Maybe open a money market account. Maybe you could have deposited that way. That's kind of been in the past. But if you're buying a lot of acquisitions and you're doing commercial and you're creating a bunch of LLC, which I'm trying to do, and trust accounts, this applies to that as well. How do I orchestrate these proceeds of funds? And let's say I sell that property, okay, and that new LLC, company number 2, Protection LLC, I don't have a bank account. So then you're going to have to open a bank account. Then that's another regulatory nightmare. Wow. This can get real sticky. And I was in a closing the other day, and I overheard the exact same problem that I had. Well, I thought I was smooth. And I called the title company up. They're like, I was like, whoa. Don't cut a check. Because I usually like checks. I like paper. I like paper trails. I like take pictures, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, title company, just wire me the money. And I thought, hey, savvy VanCauwenbergh, the flumpy flump here, thought I solved the problem. In reality, I didn't. The title company's like, hey, we're gonna send that money to that account that you're telling us, but we're gonna put it as happy, whatever, Company 2 Protection LLC. And I was like, oh, shucks. So when I'm in the middle of this closing, talking to this closer, talking to the seller, we devised a plan. Why don't you call that bank? And sure enough, I called my operational bank where I was wiring this money to them, and I'm so thankful that I would have called them. If I did not call them in advance, they would have kicked back. In this case, this was $137,000. They were going to kick it back because they didn't recognize the name. But since I contacted them in prior, and I sent an email, and I had to be very specific on the amount, on their side at this bank, they said they would have received the wire, they would have put it in this holding pattern, and eventually they would have kicked it back. But since I emailed them, told them the name, told them the transaction, and even in the memo, I put my main company name, Company Number 1 LLC, saying that you're going to receive a wire for this exact amount, 33 cents, blah, 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 to Company 2 Protection LLC, and it worked. Wow, it worked. So just a heads up, that may help you. It almost blew up in my face, and I would have not lost. I would have gotten that money, but it would have been a nightmare because I've been wiring all over the place. The title company, they're just not going to create a check for you for some random LLC. Now, the more I dig into this and the more I worked on this, I realized that the bank that knew my main company is where I did the grantor and me personally, and I created this LLC. Some banks don't even like that. So they were cool with that. They got the LLC, they got the article, they were cool with that. But I could have said, hey, the proceeds, can you please cut that check out to my parent company, the main company that I'm the grantor on? And that could have been an easier way if I wanted a paper trail. In the future, I really don't know how I'm going to do this. I might wire it and try that email again. I caught it at the right time, or I may just let the bank know in advance, hey, these proceeds do not make it out to the new LLC, Company 2 Protection LLC. So hopefully that's something I just learned in the real estate world. Normally I just get a check cut, but see, that's just a simple mind. I'm not working with my original LLC that I created, 23 years ago. I am in a new growth sprout, whatever, and trying to navigate through this commercial world. And hopefully that encourages you as well. And number 3, the final one. And it's not something I normally learned, I guess, but I was at another closing not too long ago, and there were some delays. Actually, this just happened to me today, where the title company called me and she's like, hey, are we closing tomorrow? And I was like, I don't know. The closing docs, there's some verbiage on the closing docs on the title. It was the wrong state, and my attorney was still reviewing these documents. Now, she sent these documents 5 days ago, but it's taken that much time for my attorney to go over those. And so here's a lesson I think you need to be aware of. No one knows what's going on unless you tell them. I know that's so simple, but you really need, that's what the realtor's supposed to do, but they don't know the inner workings of your business transactions, or that you're working with a title company. With an attorney. So the title company just assumed that I was just closing and it was all the same. They don't know the nuances about the deal. They don't know why I'm hiring an attorney. They don't know anything about it. And I don't need to tell them, but you need to let everyone know that what's going on. So that's just a lesson that you need to be aware of. For example, if someone's out of state, if someone passed away, you might need a death decree. How is your wiring instructions? Are they going to wire the money to what account? You might need to tell the bank. If you loan money, you have to give them instructions. What's your fees and how's the process? So the point of number 3 is that no one knows what's going on unless you tell them. And even with a quiet title, so a really good friend of mine, he was in a transaction. And he assumed, because the title company told him this, that they're working on the quiet title, or their attorney was, or there's some miscommunication. And so he's been waiting, and then he's like, hey, the closing date's and blank day, are we ready? And they're like, no, we've been waiting on you. And he's like, I have this email, I've been waiting on you. And again, that just proves to my point, don't assume that everyone is on the same page. And you can send, casual emails, are we all on the same page? These are the key things. And I just recently did this. I'm in a transaction right now where there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of miscommunication and several attorneys involved. So someone may have died, they have an attorney. Someone's part of the family has an attorney, and I have an attorney, and maybe my partner has an attorney. Seriously, there's 4 attorneys involved. And so you may need to draft an email or an update every once in a while. And I've learned this through Microsoft. Every time my friend used to work for Microsoft, when he would get off the phone with his people at Microsoft, he was a contractor, they would email him instantaneously. These are the 5 things we talked about. This is my expectations. And I just saw this with a phenomenal bank that I'm working with. Every Friday, this banker is a baller. He would update me. Okay, here we are. Your loan is in underwriting. These are the 3 key things that popped up. Could you address these? Could you get these leases to me? Or one Friday update was, hey, it's, every Friday this guy was sending me an email and I didn't understand. Every Friday, he's like, hey, we're still waiting on the appraisal. We're good to close. We're just waiting on that number so we can get the final documents drafted. Boom. Every Friday, communication, super successful banker. That bank, I'm telling you, that dude's a baller. I learned that from him. I was reminded from Microsoft. Don't assume everybody knows what's going on. You, as the investor, you may need to be the leader. Now, there may be a realtor involved or a broker involved, and they may want to be the leader. You may want to just touch base with them. I have that in my phone. I have several listings right now, and my broker's busy. He's a very popular individual. And I don't want to leave it to chance. I don't want to be second rate. I don't want to be put to the bottom. I want to be up the top. I want to sell these units as fast as possible. Hey, I just sent him a reminder, just a quick reminder. Hopefully you're doing well. What's the status of blank? Is there anything I can do to help? And I may rephrase that in a different way, like, hey, sir, how you doing? Is there anything I could help you with? Can we run an ad? It depends on what your intensity of work is or how fast you want to sell these units or whatever your project may be. And so I'm in the middle of development as well. And I just got the plans and I just emailed the engineer and I also emailed someone in the city. We're trying to move this forward. Is there anyone that can help me get this done? So don't ever assume everybody knows what's going on. Don't ever assume that each department in each city of zoning knows what's going on. From the fire marshal, usually sometimes doesn't know what the civil engineer is, and there's 3 other engineers, and then there's the city person. There'll be 13 people in a meeting. So just make sure everyone's on the same page. Grow, learn. I hope this podcast helps you. I hope you grow and do big things, but ultimately buy assets. If you thought this podcast helped you, let your boy know, write a review, tell somebody about it, encourage somebody else, encourage me. Let's grow together and let's do this game of buying assets.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.